Speaker, who is a poet, novelist, lyricist, artist, art collector, gourmet cook, actor, field designer, puppeteer, gardener, filmmaker, cat lover. Eugene Walter was born in downtown Mobile. After living decades abroad, he returned to Mobile, where he lives now. He has a staggering list of activities as a writer, editor, and translator. The University of Alabama recently reissued his Lippincott prize novel, The Untidy Pilgrim, in the Alabama Classic Series. It's a pleasure for me to introduce our first speaker, Eugene Walter.
Thank you, Swain. Thank you all for coming. Since we have so little time, I'm just going to make a few statements and read a quote from a piece I've written. Yeah, okay. Oh, are you all right? It seems to me that television and air conditioning have changed everything that I know of the South. I was 30 years in Paris and Rome, and when I came back, I found that something very precious to me had vanished. Poet's life. Poet's life had vanished. When I was a child, the front porch was an universe. The back porch was an universe. The side porch, if you had one, was a little universe. If you had an upstairs porch, that was something else. But I want to read you a little. With air conditioning and television, centuries of porch life have come to a sad fade-out. It used to be that when the sun went down, little by little, all the inhabitants of a house would begin to sally forth, each to his particular chair, armed always with the same props, a glass of something, a flashlight, a cushion, a fan. The children gathered on the steps while digesting supper, not dinner, but supper. Then began interminable games of hide and seek, and one heard near and far that 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. I wonder how many young adults today would recognize the phrase 500 by fives, the counting which precedes that triumphant coming, ready or not. Or on occasion children took shoeboxes, cut stars and crescents or flowers or whatever, covered the holes with colored paper, put a lighted candle stub in the box, put the lid on with a hole for the candle smoke, and lo, a steamboat. Pulled by a string up and down the sidewalk, it was not an overly energetic game on a hot evening. And when several steamboats were going on both sides of the street, it really was a very pretty sight. One of the principal aspects of porch life was potted plants. Those ladies and gentlemen had their tables or racks and specialties. I remember a proud Mrs. Tunstall, who had a rare geranium, semi-double, a dark rose color, which had reached almost 5 feet on the little trellis she'd made. When anyone admired it, she would say loftily, "That geranium is descended from one that belonged to Augusta Evans Wilson." There's no proper reply to that. One can only moan or hum. The blooming of a night-blooming cereus was always an occasion for inviting neighbors and friends to sit in a circle about it and watch it slowly unfold. Melody Marks loved them and thought it was a sign of good luck if you got a luna moth at the same time. Well, luna moths do like night-blooming cereus. Or, as a lady on Broad Street who always neatly labeled all her plants had written, the night-blooming cereus, like the opposite of frivolous. Now wait. Without ever discussing it, all the ladies in the old downtown knew that when you had finished your business in the morning, planning the day and finishing stringing the string beans or hulling the peas, and went to sit on your front porch in your wrapper or apron, the angle of your body to the street indicated your availability to passers-by. Everybody tried to get everything done before 10 o'clock because of no air conditioning. If you sat facing the street, it was an invitation for passers-by to come up and pass the time of day. If you sat profile to the street, it meant you could be addressed from the sidewalk, but you didn't want anyone to come up. If you sat with your back to the street, no matter how visible you might be, you were to all intents and purposes invisible. Only tacky people or poor souls from the north broke those rules. Some ladies might be on their front porches early in the morning waiting for the vegetable man. There were many of them in their carts drawn by mules or horses crying out the fresh products for that day with almost operatic fervor. Everybody hoped to find what they wanted or the surprising new item before they got picked over. There was the Iceman, too, with a huge wagon with high wooden sides, a roof, and a burlap curtain in back to insulate the huge blocks of ice. You placed your order, and the Iceman sawed the amount for you, creating a heap of crushed ice, which, if you were friends with the Iceman, you could scoop up. My favorite vendor was a dear demented lady who had a Chevrolet with a rumble seat filled with ice. The rumble seat is a seat that opens up in the back, but you can sit in it. She had hers filled with ice. Here, in a strange miscellany of glass jars, was the pale, saltless butter she churned up that morning. She came twice a week, and in the very hot time, she wore a cabbage leaf on her head because she said that was the best kind of insulation from that bronze sun. My grandmother was French-Swiss and had adapted to Alabama from childhood. Had her own remedy for surviving a heat wave before air conditioning. If you don't want to feel the heat, she'd say, close the shutters and curtains in your parlor and stretch out on the sofa and drink champagne very cold with a very ripe peach in it while you smell a rose and somebody rubs your feet. A little music played in another room helps.